Hello, this is Mr. White. This is the first classification PowerPoint. I'm going to try to go over it and read this. So classification just means to divide things into groups based on certain characteristics, such as putting all your clothes into groups based on colors. Like in this closet here, you can see this person is very organized. They've sorted by color. They have darks on the left, more colors on the right. In biology, we call classifying organisms taxonomy. And this sort of comes from this man right here, Carolus Linnaeus, who was a Swedish botanist and taxonomist. He's famous for his works in taxonomy, which is the science of identifying, grouping, and naming organisms based on shared characteristics. And the reason you group organisms or group anything is so that they're easier to study. The same reason that you sort your clothes or your music albums or your movies or video games, so it's easier to find. You usually group them together how they're similar, maybe movies of the same genre or video games, multiplayer games that you're always going to play, you sort of put them at the top, something like that. Same way of organisms, we're sorting them so that we see how they're similar and so that we can find them more easily, because there's so many. In Linnaeus, he invented binomial nomenclature. This is a system for naming species in which two words are used to name an organism. For example, the little organism there, its scientific name is Puma concolor. Now, what is binomial nomenclature? As you can see, if you break down the word binomial, that bi means two, nomial means name, and nomenclature just means a system of naming. So it's just a system of naming things using two names. And we get these names from the levels of classification, starting with the domain, its kingdom, its phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. These are ways to just, at the very top, domain is the most broad, includes almost everything with a nucleus. And then you get more specific. Then you say just the animals, and then just the animals with a backbone, things like that. And you get more and more specific until you get an actual organism, like Homo sapiens, which is the scientific name for humans. An organism's scientific name consists of its genus and species name. Like this white oak, its genus is Quercus, and its species name is alba, so the white oak is a Quercus alba. Domains and kingdoms. Organisms are placed into domains and kingdoms based on their cell type, whether they're eukaryotic or prokaryotic. And as a reminder, eukaryote means that they have a nucleus, while prokaryote means that they don't have a defined nucleus. Their ability to make food, for example, if they're a heterotroph, or if they have to eat to make their own food, or eat to obtain energy, or autotroph, where they're like plants, they make their own food. And the number of cells that make up their bodies, unicellular, meaning one cell, or multicellular, meaning made of many cells. There are three domains of life. There's eukarya, bacteria, and archaea. And this chart sort of breaks down and gives you several examples of the different domains, kingdoms, cell types. I'll read down the first layer here. So we have bacteria in the domain. Its kingdom is eubacteria. The cell type would be a prokaryote. The structures would be cell walls with peptid glycine. The number of cells is it's unicellular. The mode of nutrition is it's an autotroph or heterotroph. It can be either one. And this would be things like E. coli. There are 6 kingdoms of life: archaebacteria, bacteria, protist, fungus, plants, and animals. And these are the 8 levels that you'll want to know, starting from the top or the most broad, going down to more specific. So it starts with domain, then kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And because that can be kind of hard to remember, there's a mnemonic here called Dear King Philip, came over for good spaghetti. And if you can remember that phrase, it can help you sort and figure out what order these classifications should be in. So it should start with D, domain, for deer. King should be kingdom. Philip, phylum. Came, class. Over, order. For, family. Good, genus. And spaghetti, species. Remember Linnaeus? He's the one who developed the two-naming system called binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature identifies each species by a scientific name of two words, which usually is from Greek or Latin roots. The first name is always capitalized, and that will be the genus of the organism. The second is not capitalized, and it's its species. And the reason that they use Latin for the most part is because it's a dead language, which means it's not a language that people still speak, so it's not changing. For example, English, we still speak English, and you'll know English changes a lot. The meaning of words change. One example I think I hear a lot is, people say something's cool, but if Benjamin Franklin was to hear that, he wouldn't think that that was something that you found interesting or that you liked. He would think it's literally cool to the touch, like it's cold, and probably wouldn't understand it. So using Latin or Greek, something that's not used a lot, keeps the meaning from changing and helps scientists communicate regardless of their language. They'll always know when you're saying Homo sapiens that you're talking about a human. Skip that. So this shows the classification for this red fox. It's in the domain Eukarya, so it's in that domain that's everything that contains a nucleus. And then we go down, we get a little more specific, and we're looking at its kingdom, Animalia. This would just be all the animals, just down and down until you finally get its genus, Vulpes, and then its species, which is also Vulpes. So you have Vulpes, Vulpes. This shows a bunch of owls. And here we're going to look specifically at the great horned owl. You can see its 7 levels of classification, starting with the kingdom Animalia. You can see it's there with other birds, other owls, but even things like sharks and dragonflies. Then you come down to the phylum Chordata. You can see we've eliminated a couple things. There's still got a shark there, no dragonfly anymore. Then we get more specific with the class Aves. So now we just have different winged creatures, different birds. Its order, we got rid of that robin, it looks like. Its family, its genus, and then its species. And at the species, we just have that one creature. So the more classification levels that two organisms share, the more characteristics they have in common. And this is showing you a similar thing, but for us, for humans. Starting with the domain Eukarya. So you can see that domain Eukarya includes a lot of things, even mushrooms. Then the animal kingdom, phylum, subphylum, which is just a more specific class, order, family, genus, and then species. Finally, we just have Homo sapiens there. Now, if you're not sure what an organism is, you can sometimes use what is called a dichotomous key to identify them. And a dichotomous key is just answering two questions and following where they lead you to get to a solution. So in this example, does it have 4 limbs? If the answer was no, we would go up and we find that what we're trying to identify as a shark. But if we said yes, then we'd go to number 2, which asks another question. It says milk, which I think means does it produce milk for its young? And once again, if we said no to that question, then we'd go and find that our creature was a salamander. But if we said yes, it does produce milk, then we'd go to our third question, question 3, which asks does it have opposable thumbs? If we answered no to that, our creature would be a tiger. But if we said yes, it does have opposable thumbs, then we'd have another question. Speech, does it speak? And at that point, we would answer no, then our creature would be a gorilla. But if we answered yes, then our creature would be a human. Let's see, and this is just a joke here at the end. And you take black widow spider, to have in the hold, in sickness and health, until death do you part. And just in case you don't understand the joke, the groom is quite nervous there because the black widow spider will eat her mate after she has her children. So